A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 171st episode of Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. Just over 2 years ago, when the pandemic had just set in and schools had closed down, we at Notebook felt it was our duty to set up a platform for educators to connect meaningfully on, discussing problems they were facing with the rising need of digital education and online learning, and arrive at common solutions. Today, 171 episodes later, this platform has grown much bigger than we could have anticipated, all thanks to your love and support. We have discussed extremely curricular topics here like digital learning, NEP, and assessments, extracurricular topics like sports and theatre, topics like school finance and management, and even evolved topics like mental health. Starting with MySpace, on to Orkut, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, social media, that thing that parents are mortally afraid of. Their children spend endless hours on their mobile devices, opening themselves up to all kinds of age inappropriate influences and content, risking cyberbullying, and at the bare minimum, getting distracted from their academics, and in the process, adopting a sedentary, unhealthy lifestyle at their most energetic age. However, this is one side of an n-sided polyhedron. On our last session, Ochin referred to the edX initiative, where a knowledge exchange has thousands of students solving each other's doubts, engaging in terabytes of productive discussions, and building the greatest repository of social learning on the planet today. Today, with the help of eminent experts that we have on our panel, we will try to understand better this intersection of school education and social media. To speak on this topic, our first today is Mr. Philip Burrett. Mr. Burrett retired as the Deputy Headmaster from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. Mr. Burrett served the Doon School as Housemaster, Head of Department, Dean of Activities, Dean of Student Welfare, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster with great distinction. He also carried out a visioning exercise for the Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. Mr. Burrett qualified as a leadership trainer at Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He is also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist. And we at Notebook are privileged to have Mr. Burrett as our senior advisor. Sir, thank you so much for being here today. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Shabayu. I hope I'm audible and visible.
Perfectly, sir.
Thank you so much. It's good to be back after a small gap. Good evening to you, Achin, Abhishek, Gagori, Meghna, and everyone at Calcutta, as well as our experts and guests today. In the last few years, social media has transformed the way we communicate and has created an entirely new economic industry. It's impacted everything from politics to social movements. It's sometimes very hard to imagine a world without social media. It has become so much a part of our current culture that life without it would seem almost impossible. In the past, we wrote letters, we chatted on phones, but nowadays we, use Facebook, use Twitter, Instagram accounts, and that's the way we communicate nowadays. Not just once a week or once a month, but it's constant. It's a very constant form of communication. I consider myself old-fashioned and tech challenged, but sometimes I feel I'm addicted to Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I can't live without YouTube. And if you feel that you're not, then ask yourselves, when was the last time you went a full day without checking your social media accounts? Or do you feel rejected when someone unfollows you? Or what if your favorite network completely closed down tomorrow? Would the absence make you feel sad and depressed? If the answer is yes, then you too may be addicted. Kids are spending a lot of time watching their screens, and so much of that time is on social media. A study in the US said that teen social media use shows that YouTube and Instagram are the top social media apps, but TikTok is fast growing amongst teens, and things are going to change. They say that 70%, 71% of the teens use more than one social media app on a day-to-day basis. And with the incredible emergence of social media in recent times, one may be made, one could be laughed at and ridiculed if one doesn't use it. and moreover, children are the most active on social media today. Parents do worry about it, but there's so many pros and cons that it carries on. There's also already so much said about the power of social media and its ability to transform people's thinking. Also, nowadays, there are various options like pokes and chats and emoticons that help bridge the gap between people with a single click. Most young children are well acquainted with smartphones and tablets, not like we were. And also, the social media attributes better than adults. They understand social media because they grew up with it. And as it's a major part of their life. And as Shubhayu said in the beginning, there are pros and cons to everything. Now, the negatives of the use of social media is it's extremely distracting. Children spend too much time on it, and there's so much cartoons about family sitting around table. Instead of having those family conversations, they're sitting and everyone's sitting and watching their own little screen. It just destroys communication. It makes everything seem to revolve around them. Getting a lot of likes and comments in response to a post that you put out can make one feel very important, addictive. However, this can also cause a child to purposely seek attention. We put all our photographs of our trips and travels. I do it myself. Are people really interested in knowing what one is doing? It adds more drama to a life that's already full of drama. Social media doesn't help with this. Written words can be misconstrued. People are more likely to express their controversial ideas and opinions through social media than they would, in a face-to-face conversation. Privacy. Most people don't go through the privacy settings on their choice of social media to limit the chance that their personal information could go public. Even those who take the time to do so can't stop such information from getting out if hackers are involved. Then, of course, is the classical cyberbullying. There's so much suffering that's happening out there. Children are made fun of. They gang up against people. They say inappropriate and hideous things. And this can have a very, very deep and negative impact on children. There is body shaming that goes on. It also could form bad habits. As Shubhayu said earlier, there's a normal amount of screen time which is okay. But there's so much more to anxiety and this negative self-image that comes about. Children need to separate what happens on social media from what happens in real life. They're in front of a screen half of the time they're awake. And sometimes what is happening in reality and what is not real is blurred. It could, as Shubhayu said earlier, have a very, very negative impact on social health. Many of these children are not playing enough sport, not getting out in the sun. They're sitting in air-conditioned rooms and looking at someone else's life. And, the pressure to live up to another person's standard of life, can prove a huge, have a huge negative impact on their well-being. Can lead to depression. It can lead to sleep deprivation. People are watching these social media apps late till the night. Reduced human interaction, as I said earlier. Reduced physical activity. They're not playing enough sport out there. Then, of course, is this famous FOMO, fear of missing out. And children just feel constantly they want to check to see what their friends are doing. And if they're not involved with what their friends are doing, they just feel inadequate. They feel they're not there, they're not living. As many people are aware, social media forms unrealistic expectations of life. And this too is bad. Most social media sites, they have a severe lack of authenticity. We have no way of knowing whether this is the reality or farce that we are reading. It looks great on the surface, when we follow someone, but that person could be in debt. That person could be in severe depression. There's a disconnect with reality. Of course, the vastness of social media ensures that there is no control on the scope of information. And such situations can lead children bumping into obscene, harmful, or graphic websites. And there's a huge issue of pornography out there. I fought this as a teacher. Matter how much you have, put firewalls in place, and no matter how much you check, they will always get through. It's also sometimes a waste of time. There's so much else that they can be doing more positively. And too much of a good thing sometimes is bad. Spending too much time can affect a child negatively and often lead to social media addiction, which is sometimes worse than tobacco and alcohol. It has such a powerful draw. People checking their phones all the time. And at the end of the day, social media sites want children to keep scrolling for as long as possible because they can show you lots of ads and make lots of money. The attention economy, is important, and these sites need your eyes on them for as long as possible. Then there are, of course, the positive impacts. It helps make friends. Studies show that almost 60% of the teens have made new friends through social media. It's the new way in which children contact others. It contacts the world around them. They find themselves looking at things and learning things that we couldn't learn. We had to go to dusty libraries. They just have to click onto social media. Children looking at social media more and more, they discuss homeworks, they help each other. They do better in school. They meet different people. In our days, we had to get to college to meet a huge, wider spectrum of people. Today, you can meet those people much before you join college. Also, it produces more links between family. Grandparents and aunts and uncles living elsewhere. It just keeps one's friends and families in the picture. They learn a lot of new things. Believe it or not, social media has become a beacon of education, especially on platforms like YouTube, TikTok. Also, today, kids are getting into businesses very soon, even if they're not influencers. Social media, they help a child to launch their own businesses and make money, especially after the lockdown, especially after COVID. Social media has become a source of earning. It's also a form of entertainment and self-expression. Regardless of the platform, social media is an avenue for children to express themselves and having fun while they do it. My daughter puts on a lot of dance and a lot of songs, and she just out over there expressing herself. Sometimes she doesn't even do that in front of me, but I see it on Instagram before I see it in reality. It also gives them a sense of belonging. Children who are isolated and find it difficult to make friends, they feel more welcome by people on Facebook. YouTube, especially, watching contents that are created by vloggers, I just love YouTube. I can't live without you. Instagram too, I think if anyone finds the social media is having a negative impact on them, then my advice to them is to curtail the use of it. They have to decide how much to use, what is the optimum amount of time that a child should be on social media. And we need to make sure that the child spends quality time on social media and reap positive outcomes. We need to keep a tab on what the child is viewing. We need to educate children on the pros and cons of social media. And if one's child is withdrawn or moody or excited due to a lack or surfeit of social media, we need to, come in and talk to the children. A lot of my friends who are parents have this perpetual complaint that they come back from school, instead of connecting with us, instead of telling us about school, they get straight onto their social media with friends. And I think a lot of parents have lost that connect with their children. I think screen time should be curtailed to 2 hours or even less. And I think we need to communicate this with children, support them, and not just take away social media. I think we need to be firm and yet fair and friendly. Social media should allow children to participate, but not overdo it. We need to also make have certain rules about where you watch social media. You can't bring it to the bedroom, for example. We need to have more face-to-face interaction with our children. And if we are on social media as adults all the time, the children will automatically go onto their social media. I think we also need to encourage children to get in more physical activity. And one must maybe make a compromise with them. You go out and play, and then come back and there's half an hour social media. And I want to end by saying that there's an important saying that we should not judge our everyday life against the highlights of somebody else's. I think the biggest sin that we encounter in social media is the sin of envy. We envy what other people are doing and what we cannot do. And that is the thing that I would advise children and parents to stay away from. Thank you very much for listening. And I look forward to the views and the expert comments of our panelists as well as Achin. Thank you so much, Sabai.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for that wonderful start. I think, sir, you set the ground rules very, very firmly, and I think this will lay the foundation of the discussion that we are going to go into. Social media has both good and bad sides to it. Social media could be controlled. Free, firm, and fair approach by the parents towards social media usage of their children, and ensuring that it kind of fits a certain routine, giving it a limited time of exposure. I think these are some of the points that I'm sure that our experts will discuss further when we go into the panel discussion. Thank you so much, sir. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we will start with the panel discussion just a little bit. Before we go into that, a little bit about us here at Notebook. We at Notebook are an EdTech platform. We create short videos that pertain to the school curriculum. Now, these videos come in handy in two cases. One is when you as a teacher start off with a new topic. You can play these short videos, about 6 to 10 minutes in duration, as an introduction to the topic that you're about to teach. It serves as a visual aid for the students coming across this topic for the first time. Months later, when the students have to revise this topic, or maybe they have forgotten a little bit about what you taught in class and need to quickly remember it, they can play these videos on their personal devices at home. Be it a smartphone or a laptop, they can play these videos over and over again until they get a crystal clear understanding of the entire concept. What I'm going to do now is play you a short snippet of one of the Notebook videos so that you know what these videos actually look like.
Edison faced an accident on the train when he was 15. One day, he was experimenting in his laboratory on the train. Suddenly, there was a jerk and some phosphorus fell on the floor of the carriage. The carriage and the newspapers caught fire. The fire started spreading quickly. The guard and Edison managed to blow out the fire. However, Edison had to get down at the next station. He could no longer travel by the train. Edison was forced to take up jobs in different cities for the next 5 years. This helped him visit new libraries and meet experts in factories and workshops. Like always, Edison asked questions and learned a lot from the experts. For some time, Edison did not have a job. He was staying with a friend who worked at a company. Edison was visiting his friend's company when an important machine in the company stopped working. Luckily, Edison could repair that machine, and the manager of the company offered him a job. Thanks to that job, Edison could pay off his debts and make his laboratory better. Over the next 6 years, Edison made many important inventions. He became famous and rich. He started working on a machine which could reproduce the human voice in 1877. He called it the talking machine. It later came to be known as the gramophone. Edison was called to the White House in America to show his new machine, the gramophone. He became famous among the Americans with his invention.
Well, that was just a short snippet of one of the many Notebook videos. If you head over to our website, www.notebook.school, or visit our apps for iOS, You would find more than 10,000 such videos at your disposal. Well, with that said about Notebook, it is now time to introduce the wonderful panelists that we have with us today. We are privileged to have with us Ms. Archana Singh, who is the principal of the Sunbeam Sun City School in Varanasi. Ma'am holds a BSc, an MBA, and a B.Ed. She herself started in the corporate, working as an area manager in Protech, a division of Cipla, and then went on to education, where she has served for over 22 years. She experiments with classroom teaching methodologies and professes her love for physics and maths as subjects. She has been a CBSE observer for Class 12 practical exams and a committee member for CBSE affiliation inspection. She is a certified pastoral trainer from Umeed Foundation and has been a participant of the leadership workshop iDiscovery by Disha. She attended and hosted CBSE workshop on life skills on inclusion and inclusive strategies. She is a UCLA GCC certification course in career guidance from the University of California. She is also the joint secretary of the Sancharya Sahodaya Varanasi Association of CBSE and has won the Best Teacher Award by Varanasi Schools Association. She holds the ICS Excellence Award by Amity University and has been a center superintendent for UGC, CTET, and other CBSE entrance exams. She was also awarded as one of the 100 highly effective principals by AKS and has also received awards like the Excellence in Inclusive Education and Instructional Leadership Award, and has been the CBSE District Training Coordinator of Varanasi and the Chandauli regions. Ma'am, thank you so much for sparing your time to be here today. We look forward to hearing your views. We also have with us today Dr. Rita Chatterjee, who is an academic with a huge body of experience, plethora of exposure, and an abundance of virgin ideas in the field of learning and exchange of knowledge. She has always believed in the integral approach of learning system that generates wisdom rather than mere success. Education to her has two-pronged objectives. One is to earn a living, and the other is to earn a life. To live, she believes, is different from experiencing life. Life, Dr. Chatterjee says, is a broader and a more colorful spectrum than living. Her efforts are to provide the best ambience and opportunity to all seekers of knowledge that she interacts with. They learn the art of searching and inquiry that leads to the final goal of accomplishing wisdom, true knowledge, or the comprehension of the self. Dr. Chatterjee is currently the director of North Point Senior Secondary Boarding School in Kolkata. Prior to this, she has spent almost 2 decades with the APJ School Education Trust. She started in 1981 as the headmistress interim principal of the APJ School Park Street branch. Then in 1993, she took over as the principal of APJ School Salt Lake and the Park Street branches. Eventually, in 2006, she went on to become the administrator of the APJ School Education Trust in Kolkata. Ma'am holds an MA in English from the University of Calcutta, an M.Ed from Charan Singh University, Meerut, and a PhD from Trinity World University. She has received the Lifetime Achievement Award as a principal and senior administrator from the Lions Club Kolkata in 2020. She's been a member of the advisory board of World Genius Council. She has received the Merit Award 2012 at the 20th Annual National Sahodaya Conference at Amritsar for outstanding work in implementation of CCE. She's received the CBSE Award to Mentors 2011-12 for commendable services as Mentor of Outstanding Merit for implementation of continuous and comprehensive evaluation, CCE, in schools. She's received the Long Service Award 2006 from APJ Surendra Group for 25 years of continuous service, the Best Principal Award 2005 from the 8th National Science Olympiad Foundation, and the Vidya Bhushan Samman 2005 from the International Association of Lions Club. Ma'am has a long list of awards, these are just to name a few. Ma'am, thank you so much for sparing your time to be here today. We look forward to hearing from you again. We also have with us today Ms. Vaishali Pandit, who's the principal of the KK International School in Jalgaon. She has spent over 17 years working in the field of education. She is a CBSE Master Trainer from COE Pune and has given training at Poddar School Jalgaon, Golden Jubilee School Jalna, School of Scholars Malkapur, and Macrovision Academy School Raver. She has been the principal for 5 years in the Senior Secondary CBSE School from 2013 to 2018. She joined KK International School from June 2019 as the principal. She has received various awards. Vidyarthi Vikas Sanstha Aurangabad Best Principal Award is just one of them. She was appointed as CBSE resources person to conduct teachers training programs on CCE in various CBSE affiliated schools. Ma'am, thank you so much for sparing the time to be here today and welcome back on this platform. I shall now stop my share and start my video. I would request all the panelists to kindly do the same. Archana ma'am, Vaishali ma'am, Dr. Chatterjee, welcome once again, and very good evening to all of you. Dr. Chatterjee, if I may come to you first, my first question is the one that is the most ready response when you ask teachers about social media and education. Do you think social media is a deterrent to a child's education?
The answer cannot be, am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, clearly.
Yeah, the answer cannot be a yes or a no. Your question is whether it's a deterrent to education. It all depends on how the teacher is handling it, how the parents are handling it. So if the teacher has given the right set of instructions, and if she is able to get the students to comply by those instructions, then definitely social media is not a deterrent. We have seen during the pandemic when all schools had to shut down all on a sudden, we all went and did our classes online. But how much of it, that the other two panelists are also here with me, I think they will agree that how much of it was effective, how much learning has happened during these 2 years is an element that we need to discuss. And because it is an element we need to discuss, the board, the affiliate board of most of our schools have asked for bridge classes when the children come into the new session. So therefore, it's not a deterrent, but it needs, as Mr. Bure just said, it needs sagacious use of the social media. So therefore, no, it's not a deterrent, but like any other educational tool that we have at hand, we need to know how to use it, And just an observation, yesterday I was at a CBSE workshop talking about use of storytelling in the classrooms. And there again, we were referring to videos that teachers are very frequently using. But what is also happening is, because if I can play a video when I'm in my class, then I'm not using much of myself, which if the video was not there, then I, as a storyteller, would have excelled, and my curriculum or some topic from the curriculum would have coalesced into a story. So that is another side to these tools that we have at hand.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for that input, especially on the social media bit, where you're saying that there's both a pro and a con to it, but suggestions use of social media could make it a very effective tool as well.
Absolutely.
Archana ma'am, if I may come to you next. Ma'am, same question, but to make it a little more binary in nature, because as the moderator, it will be my job to kind of push you towards one end of the spectrum. In a world where social media exists, vis-a-vis a world where social media did not exist, right? Do you see a behavioral change in students and their openness to education?
Well, rightly said, sir. In case there is a social media, in case there is no social media, what is the difference between the lives of a student and the lives of the teachers has to be understood. Yes, the question is like, is social media a deterrent to the child's education? I will talk the otherwise also, because we can also place it whether the child's education will become deterrent without the social media. That is also one point of question. Because these 2 years of pandemic, what we have understood, yes, we did not use all the means or the different apps that are available in the social media, but yes, it has been of a great help to the students as well as the teachers. This is what I feel. I understand, the conversion of the emotional imbalance to the Ukraine war. What has happened is everyone has transformed into a humor, like a TikTok. But what has to be understood is the exposure of these different apps to the student, and how to use it is very important. The kids have to understand what is real and what is fake. I think this differentiation is something which we as adults and educators have to bring in the minds of the students. This is what I feel. Because truly speaking, all the social media apps are not made for the kids, but the extensive use by the kids is something which is worrying every educator. This is what I feel. I think it is very important to have a bucket list of the apps that are very fruitful to the students, which we as educators have to guide them, because I think there are a lot of apps that has been of great use, because I understand that there may be a 20% of the kids who have not used it correctly. But yes, there are at least another 40% of the kids who have explored these different apps. And the way the projects have been submitted during this pandemic time, I mean, it was brilliant. Many of the students have really done brilliant job during this pandemic. So I think the right use is very important that we have to guide to the students. This is what I feel.
Thank you, ma'am. So effective tool, right use is important. That seems to be the consensus that we have been developing so far. Vaishali ma'am, if I may come to you next. Ma'am, what has been your experience with students interacting on social media? Ma'am, you'll have to unmute yourself, please.
Good evening, everyone. So for 2 years, our students, we teachers, everyone was on social media. Means we are in a kind of virtual world. So where interaction, we did interaction, and I think it was the only possible thing which we can do in that period. And thanks to our technologists who came forward and gave us the solution in such a less time. So it's too much useful for everyone, and because of that, learning did not stop. It was a continuous process. During pandemic, we took assessments, we prepared Google Forms and various types of assessments. So neither assessment stopped, neither nor the teaching. Everything was going on well. But looking at the another side, as the other panelists have put, so we have to make us aware that yes, there is another side of coin also. That is a distraction for the students. That is, we may say, overuse of mobile phones, spending too long on social media, apps and different websites. So these are the things. But as we, if we can see that it's important for teaching and learning, yes, it helped us a lot. And as the schools were closed, it was the only connection which connects us, which binds us, teachers to the students and students to the teacher, and education. So I think it's very useful. It has great use, and yeah, our education process. And still, you see, now the schools are reopened. We are once again offline, but we can't deny the use of social media in the field of education. Thank you,
ma'am. Thank you so much for that. Before I go on to the next question, what I want to do is kind of define very clearly the scope of our discussion from here on, because it is very easy to confuse social media with all of the internet, given their predominance over there today. But if you had to discuss the complete effect of ICT or internet technology on education, that will not happen in one evening for sure. So social media, we are specifically talking about products that have an algorithm where people are putting in content, right? And anybody has the freedom to put in content. At the same time, the algorithm latches on to behavior of the user and essentially creates a chamber where things that you prefer to see keep being shown to you again and again. For example, if I am somebody who searches for motorcycles on social media regularly, eventually Facebook would understand that I enjoyed learning about motorcycles and will tell me more about motorcycles. Somebody else would have the same kind of interest in sports or food or travel. They would get more and more content along that same line, right? Archana, if I may come to you for the next question. Now, given that boundary that we have now created for ourselves, that we're talking about this kind of an algorithmic serving of content, right? And to the young student who has not yet clearly defined that this is what I like, this is what I don't like, right? Or is still very exploratory in nature. Does social media prohibit what the student could have otherwise been exposed to?
This is some question which has to be spoken to the Google people, as to why do they do that. That setting has to be checked out in there personally, because you rightly said that whatever we want to see, it comes back again and again to us. And this is a very natural phenomena, technologically natural phenomena. That is what I understand. Most importantly, it is very important that whenever we hand over a mobile or a setting to kids, when we are referring to kids over here in this platform right now, so it is very important to understand that there are certain privacy settings that we will have to take care of before handing over things to them. Also, everywhere, like even we all have kids, and counseling is very important. That is what we have seen. It has really affected. In fact, not only personal counseling, there has been instances when the children have come to us asking as to why it is appearing again and again. Even if I don't want to check it, when it appears on the screen, somewhere I have that urge or that curiosity to go back and check it. And we are just not talking about motorcycles, we're talking about any media or any video that is not appropriate to the kid. So the children who have been really honestly coming and talking to us, we had provided counselors to them. But whatever you may do, that urge of knowing something new, this is something which we cannot take out from the kids' mind. I think more and more of talking, conversation with the kids have helped them a lot. Because even after when they came back to school in the offline mode, there was physical, personal, one-to-one counseling that helped a lot. Because even after being away from online education, they were constantly there on the WhatsApp, because the school still did not stop sending them the asynchronous task which they were supposed to do. So they had to hook on to their mobiles and their laptops to complete their project work and the homework. So maybe that is the reason why the children had to go up using these different platforms. For me as educator, as principal of the school, the counseling and one-to-one talking has really helped us a lot. Because it is for the kids to identify as to what is right and wrong. Then there is nothing good or bad for a kid's mind. More importantly, it is what is right and wrong for you at a particular appropriate age. So making them understand is something which is helped. I understand it cannot be achieved in few days, and 100% of that cannot be achieved in few days. But yes, these small steps would help us to at least, achieve that 1% or 2%. Then we had peer educators, we had peer counselors. So what we did was, the child who was involved or who was facing this problem, we had a senior child whom we called as a peer educator, like he's a peer counselor for that child. So that also helped for us in schools, that one-to-one counseling with the peer counselor who was a senior child, along with the junior child who had all these problems. And there was a counselor of the school who was like a mediator between them. So sometimes what happens is, the senior child who knows what he has gone through and it has affected him a lot, the way he educates that younger child, that has created a different impact. That is like a difference that has created in my school that I wanted to share.
Wonderful, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Vaishali ma'am, if I may come to you next. Archana ma'am just referred to peer education, right? Now, if I look at the flip side, where social media is a powerful tool, can social media be used to amplify this impact of peer educators?
Yeah, definitely, sir. Sure. So social media, we can say in India, if I talk about India, I don't think we are that much social media literate. It's a new term actually. It came in my mind when Philip sir was talking. Like we have computer literacy or whatever. So I think we should have a social media, or we should have a mobile uses literacy. Means what things are right to see at what age. Because, there is not any control on the content of like Google, or you may say social media, that which content is appropriate for which age group, or which class should see this, that. At home, if we if we see a child, at that time we are always there, around him or her. And if they look something inappropriate on TV, or in front of us on YouTube, so we restrict their uses, or we may tend to push them back from that side. But when it's a point, Ma'am Archana has put it very relevant, that when it's a time of social media, at that time lots of information pops up, which we really don't need, or which may be inappropriate. So what we can say, ma'am gave a good example, like senior students were guiding to juniors or kids. So they are sharing their experiences with the small kids. So I think peer education is very much important, whether it's offline or in online mode also. It's not that much, we have experienced, but it may be a reality in coming time, I think. So that the senior students may guide, they may give a good content to their juniors. They may share such sites and such information which was very useful for them. So in this way, it can be done and elaborated and extended. So that children may be in some habit that yes, this is right, ma'am has rightly told that this is good for them, or this is right for them, and this is not, means they should not see that content. So such type of control, it is, the control is there at home, the control is there offline school, but control is not there on online content. So that is a big issue. And we people, I don't think in India know very well how to use a social media, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook, whether it's WhatsApp. We generally use as to copy others, to see their status, or so many things which are time consuming. We do not give much more importance to the content. Suppose I want to do some project, so I do not use my originality. Instead, I go on Google and I just type what content I want. And many students in my school also, I have seen mostly senior students, so they copy the same content when project is given, when some work like assessment work is given. At the time when it is descriptive in nature, at that time they tend to copy the matter. So if a peer interaction is there, okay, not only with the online content, but also with other all types of like assessment, all types of programs, or the teaching, everything. So peer interaction will come up with some original ideas, I think. And that is what is lacking on social media, or you can say on Google or on different websites.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for that. In fact, one of the parts of the algorithm that works to your advantage is if you were to be able to ask students to make curiosity their most common behavior, then Facebook will latch on to that. It will start serving content that satisfies curiosity more than any other basic need. Dr. Chatterjee, if I may come to you next. Ma'am, social emotional learning is a very important part of any child's learning curve. And social media does provide a great scope. It's a great platform for that. Are there ways in which that can be better done? Because right now it seems like the tool is there, but it's not utilized that well.
Social emotional learning is something which is absolutely essential for today's children. And if a teacher is trained to be able to understand the social and emotional pulls and pushes of the child, then that's the success of the teacher. Half the work is done. So therefore, yes, and there are ways and means of using the social media platform to gauge on the social emotional quotient of the child. And the teacher who is using this platform to teach has many applications that she can do to gauge the social emotional learning, social emotional aptitude of the child. One simple thing is, when this pandemic began and when all the schools had to go on to the online classes, there was a lot of discussion on whether chat box should be left open or no. And it all, as I keep saying, that it all depends on the quality of the teacher training that has been done, or the teacher's instinctive love or passion for the ultimate end of teaching learning process. One of our teachers, she wanted to leave the chat box open, and the idea was to see what kind of communication the children are wanting to put out. And then she worked on every child from the kind of communication that the children were putting on the chat box. So therefore, yes, and there are many other ways that one can do this. The topic for today was social media and education. And I wanted to put across a thought, which is that, yes, of course, there are ways and means to search on the Google, to type your content and to go and see what you can get, etc. But again, plagiarism, children should be told and they should know that it's an offense, and the teacher should be given tools to detect plagiarism, and it should be worked out in that manner. I constantly feel that along with all the children are learning coding, they're getting into AI classes, and it's a topic under the CBSE board. So therefore, there's no going away from the usage of social media. However, it needs a lot of controlling. It needs a lot of soft handling. It needs a lot of care from the educators towards the children. And of course, a lot of parental training is also required.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So we have more or less seen the negatives of social media, whether it's a deterrent or not. We've discussed the effective use of social media as a tool, which brings me to the next point, where we have all seen that Facebook recently renamed themselves as Meta. They are building something called the Metaverse, which is going to be this immersive experience, which is almost like, for the lack of a better example, almost like a game, where the student or the teacher or any user of social media becomes an avatar who can move around in this virtual space and experience various out-of-body experiences. One of the classic case studies that Facebook likes to put forward very often is a paraplegic could, for the first time in their lives, actually experience paragliding, right? Which they would otherwise not have in real life, which are very noble thoughts, which begs the thought that given that we have now this tool called social media, there's a consensus that right kind of use of social media can be very powerful. Then why not a social media separately, not as a product, but maybe a part of any existing social media product, which is just for teachers and students, right? A kind of a knowledge exchange along the lines of what edX is. edX is I'm sure all of you know, is an initiative between MIT and Harvard, where essentially the platform just connects higher education students from across the world. And if they have a question, they post the question, another student from somewhere else on the planet just comes and answers that question, and then they discuss on it. Is it a possibility, given a country of our diversity, to have something similar, to have like a knowledge exchange for all teachers and students in the school system? Vaishali ma'am, if I may start with you first.
Yeah, I think it is a need of the hour that our technologists should develop such type of platform where we can come together, we can share our views, we interact. You know, nowadays, means previously there were classrooms which are teacher centered. Means teacher was the only resource person. Might be textbook is there other than that. But now it's we are moving to 21st century, and lots of inventions are there. Students are getting smarter and smarter, and they need a bigger exploration of knowledge. I don't think a teacher is sufficient, or 5 subject teachers are sufficient for their own curiosity and to answer their all questions. So they need a platform. Now what we are discussing about social media or internet, whatever, so they have that one of a platform, and that's why I think that is the reason why they are getting attracted towards it more and more, because the questions which their teacher can't answer, the social media, the Google are answering those questions. So I think in their mind, okay, so we did not have such type of open discussion with students till now, but we may have in coming days, that they may respect this Google teacher more than their teacher, you know, actual classroom teacher in the class, because what knowledge matters more, I think. So it may be in a form of information, you know, we say that Google provides information where a teacher is well-educated teacher, through his experiences, he can impart knowledge. Also it is said that social media or internet or AI or whatever, they do not replace a teacher. So our liabilities are, I think they are innumerable. And we as a human being, because we are the supreme, we created everything, every platform we created, we are capable. Your point is very much appreciable, I think, because such type of platform is needed. In higher education, such type of things are there. Children are using them wisely. My daughter is there in BTech course, and she can use such type of platform. She always shares such type of information with me, that they gets interaction from various platforms, which I don't know. So such type of platform is there for school education. Then it will be very useful for those curious minds, you know, and for teachers also. We need timely updation of our knowledge. We come to know about what is happening all over the world. What is my view looking at this problem, and what is your view looking at the same problem? So I think if social media and internet and all these things we are using for different purposes, so that is one of a major purpose for the sake of education. So such type of platform, I think, must be created, and it will be created, I think, very early, so that where everyone can share our views and gain more, possibilities to everything.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Dr. Chatterjee, if I may come to you with the same question. This entire initiative, if it were to be built, would also mean loosening of some of the control parameters that we have. Do you think our education system is ready for it? Ma'am, you're on mute. You'll have to please unmute yourself.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. See, one thing we have to recognize as academicians today, that digital divide is a reality. So keeping that in mind, we need to discuss such advantages that may come into the education sector. Look, it definitely would be a boon if children were able to discuss on, they already are discussing on the common platform, and there are platforms that are available already where there are teachers are there present and the children are having discussion on various topics given to them, like an open forum discussion, okay? So therefore, this is already happening. And yes, I think if there could be such an exchange of ideas, questions, and curiosities answered, it would be a very, very good thing to be done. My, when the topic came to me, social media and education, I just wanted to say something, which is that there are the YouTube. There are children who are making YouTubes and they are putting it up, and the same YouTube is going around. If there could be, or probably after these discussions, something might evolve somewhere, somebody might hear, if there could be a check and control of quality on the YouTube, then, such difficulties would not come up. And another issue that is majorly happening is that how, we as academicians have to think that if a child is preparing a PPT on a particular subject or is preparing a YouTube on a particular subject, how much of that is he or she retaining? And what has been the ultimate use of that YouTube? Has it gone in to talk more about the school that he or she belongs to? So is it like a brand building for that school where he or she belongs to? Or is the child actually learning? Retention is happening by creating these YouTubes or the PPTs. That is one thing that we have to consider. But I repeat, it is an essential life skill. They need to know it. And this is what is going to be the language of the future.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much for those views. Archana, ma'am, if I may come to you, pretty much the same question, ma'am. How would you envision such a thing to be structured? How do you think it will be most effective?
When I talk about a different site only for teachers and students, agreed, it will be the best. Unless and until the teachers have wars on misconception on science or a mathematics or an English, unless and until the teachers talk about subject, and unless and until there are no YouTube links that they are diverted to. Because finally, if in that separate system that we are going to create, if finally the link has to be diverted to a YouTube link where the student has to go and see that YouTube video to clear their concepts, we are going to back again to the same old sites or the old apps that are already available to the students. So it has to be a forum where concepts are discussed. It has to be a forum where topics pertaining to education is discussed. It has to be a forum where students put in their questions and it is answered by relevant teachers. And more importantly, it has to be understood that there are teachers across the country and international who are going to be a part of it. And if they are a part of it, it has to be understood that the concept will remain the same and there is no war on different concepts. This is what is more important. So then there cannot be any favorite teacher on that platform. There cannot be any favorite school in that platform. I think when we are envisioning a different system where only teachers are present, teachers and students are present, it has to be just education and educators that is being discussed on that platform and nothing else. So I think this is few words from mine. And I would like to name it as an SILC, that is a Self-Inspired Learning Center, instead of any other name that they want to portray or name it, the entire system. These are my few words.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, ma'am. I think we are just around the end of our time. I'm so glad we managed to keep this to time because I was very scared with a topic as diverse as social media and a topic as huge as education, the potential of this becoming a 5-hour discussion was fairly large. But once again, thank you all so much for sharing your wonderful views and thoughts with all of us. I think
I just have to put in,
Yes, ma'am,
can I
please.
just say something?
Yes, ma'am,
You know,
absolutely.
yeah, you know, we also have to remember that the children are having to write out the answers now, you know. So when that practice has to continue of learning and writing. But we have seen that the children are not wanting to write anymore, because for the 2 years they've been doing just on the media and typing the answers on the Google Classroom. So we also have to remember that the advantage of this neuromotor development coming around with writing is an important aspect we need to consider.
Right, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much for highlighting that. And I must say a larger thank you to all of you. I think this particularly has been a very enriching session for me. I learned a lot. I think we heard so many different facets of how these two worlds of social media and school education can interact and intersect. Baritza, thank you for that wonderful start. And to our 3 panelists, thank you so much for your time and for sparing all your wisdom, sharing it with us here today. The main takeaways, if I had to kind of do a quick recap, is one, social media is an extremely powerful tool that can go to great extents in any direction possible. Second, effective use of social media as a learning tool is possible, given the right kind of moderation, the right kind of behavior, and an element of counseling should be introduced where students and teachers could have one-on-one sessions on their social media behavior. Social media literacy could be improved so that it can be better used. Social media has a harmful side that is very real, that is something that is a physical impact, that is an academic impact, and that is something that parents and teachers should work towards controlling and curbing. But if done well, we could possibly look at having an SILC in future, which would mean a social media connecting teachers and students across the platforms of different various countries where knowledge could flow freely, and we could have this perfect boundaryless school around the whole wide world. To the audience, thank you so much for your time and patience for being with us once again here today. We look forward to having you with us on our next session. Until then, please stay safe, take care, and goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shabayu. It was very nice being here with everybody else. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.